Hello and welcome back to the AEW News channel, and today we're bringing you the final video before tonight's AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. And speaking of Full Gear, we're going to be bringing you the full and final card. We have an update on PAC Status in AEW. Cody says that AEW will be heading to the UK. We have news on why WWE fired Miro. We have news on a legend being banned from Ringside tonight at the pay-per-view. And Tony Khan is enforcing stricter rules. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for daily AEW content, and why not drop a like while you're down there. But without any further ado, let's get into the stories. So then let's have a quick rundown of tonight's final card for the Full Gear pay-per-view, and of course card is always subject to change, but as it stands this will be all the matches that we will see on tonight's show. So on the buy-in, we're going to have the NWA Women's World Championship on the line as the champion Serena Deeb defends against Allison Kay, who will be making her AEW debut. On the main card, we've got Orange Cassidy taking on John Silver of the Dark Order. We've got Chris Jericho taking on MJF, and of course if MJF can get the victory, he will join the Inner Circle, and he says he will do so by any means necessary. We're going to see a cinematic match between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara, and this will be in an Elite Deletion match. We've got the AEW World Tag Team Championships on the line with the champions FTR going up against the Young Bucks, and this one is 5 years in the making. We've got the AEW Women's World Championship on the line with the champion Hikaru Shida taking on a former champion Nyla Rose. We're going to see Cody defend his AEW TNT Championship against Darby Allin, and of course Darby Allin has been lurking over Cody in the stands, reminiscent of the man called Sting. So will we perhaps see the Stinger tonight? We will find out. And we're going to see the final of the world title number one contenders eliminator tournament as Kenny Omega goes one-on-one with his former tag team partner Hangman Adam Page, and in the main event the AEW World Championship will be on the line in an I Quit match as old friends and bitter enemies will collide with Jon Moxley defending against Eddie Kingston. And the card is stacked from top to bottom, and I'm really looking forward to this one. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out my predictions for the card. I made a separate video on that. But let's get into the next news story. This week on Dynamite, PAC made an appearance after 7 months away from AEW. He was shown in various locations in the northeast of England, seemingly preparing for a return. And now we have an update regarding as to why he was missing from television. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer has reported that the Englishman has been away due to COVID-19 protocol, as many fans suspected. However, the issue hasn't been getting him into America, it's been getting him back to England. PAC would need to undergo 2 weeks of quarantine every time he returns back home, and this begs the question as to whether PAC has arranged some kind of living arrangements stateside, since the video package aired after Boris Johnson had confirmed another lockdown. And as I say, since the video aired after the lockdown was announced in England, it seems like there is some kind of plan in place. And we may even see him tonight at AEW Full Gear. And speaking of England, or the UK in this case, speaking to Digital Spy this week, Cody Rhodes has seemingly confirmed that AEW will be heading to the UK once the world goes back to normal. The company had planned to visit the UK in 2020 for a pay-per-view, but of course the coronavirus pandemic brought any plans to an end. Cody told Digital Spy that the discussion of doing a show in the UK, that's a no-brainer. I know I'm not supposed to break any news, and ultimately Tony Khan is steering the ship, but I can tell you flat out, when the gates open, when the world is open again, we will absolutely be in the UK. I don't think for just one show, there's too many markets. You're not a wrestler, in my opinion, until you've wrestled in front of the UK crowd. So as someone that is based in the UK, I really cannot wait to see AEW live, and it's certainly something I'm going to be heading to as soon as I can. So yeah, hopefully the world can go back to normal as soon as possible. But let's get into our next story. Recently, Miro appeared on Chris Jericho's podcast Talk is Jericho, and he spoke about why he thinks he was fired from WWE earlier this year. And he spoke about how he was part of a meeting between wrestlers who were unhappy with how WWE had been handling the coronavirus pandemic at the time. And he says that I was getting some of the boys around because we weren't okay with how everyone was being treated in the pandemic situation. We felt scared to go to work. It was probably 10 of us talking, and somebody leaked it to the office and to the dirt sheet. sheets. And once that happened, I knew right away that they were going to fire me. They were going to blame it on me, of course, because I'm the guy. And Miro went on to describe how he lashed out at Director of Talent Relations Mark Carano for 5 minutes upon calling him. And yeah, it seems like this meeting and the understandable concerns of the wrestlers with their health and their families was the reason Miro eventually left the WWE. So yeah, let me know what you think of that in the comments below. And we have confirmation that a legend will be banned from ringside in tonight's AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. Of course, we're going to be seeing FTR defend their AEW Tag Team Championships against the Young Bucks tonight in a much anticipated matchup. But FTR will be without Tully Blanchard, who normally accompanies them to ringside. And this follows Blanchard's involvement in previous FTR matches, which means FTR will have to go out alone. And this definitely makes tonight's tag match a little bit more interesting and maybe could be the crutch that allows them to put the belts on the Young Bucks, but of course only time will tell. And hopefully this match can live up to expectations, and I have no doubts that it will. So yeah, interesting news there. But we go into today's final story, as Tony Khan is seemingly enforcing stricter rules for his AEW wrestlers. So in an interview with Sports Illustrated, Tony Khan was asked about tightening restrictions when it came to their stars working on indie events. And it seems like Tony will be now enforcing stricter rules, with safety being the most important thing. And he said, I implemented a policy where people were only supposed to work indie shows when certain conditions were met. There have been times when people did not take that seriously, so I have tightened up the restrictions. I'll still allow it under certain conditions, but people need to look me in the eye and say that the conditions are being met. Our talent and their opponent needs to be tested before the show, and there also needs to be a good reason why the match is important. This is important for everyone's safety as well as important for our show. I've been flexible in the past because I thought it was good for the talent to have the opportunity to earn, as well as great for the fans and the indies as a whole. We also don't run every night of the week, so it allows for talent to get extra reps too. So we have a policy and I'll be enforcing it strictly. For me, this makes a lot of sense. You don't want to be having people work on mud shows, as some people might call it, where the COVID regulations might not be as thorough as they might be on AEW. And yeah, obviously you don't want to infect the entire AEW roster by having someone come back from one of these shows and spreading it basically. So yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense, but we may be seeing less AEW wrestlers on indie shows going forward, at least for the time being, until this whole pandemic situation is over. We have seen recently how these shows can be affected by COVID outbreaks, whether it's people coming into contact with someone that ended up testing positive, or whether it's someone that was tested positive themselves. Of course, Scorpio Sky this week being the latest on the list. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense going forward. But let me know what you think of today's stories in the comments down below. Make sure you are subscribed for daily AEW content, and hope you all enjoy the pay-per-view tonight. But until next time, peace.